Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Facebook Live Summer Series episode. I'm really excited about tonight's topic. I've got a lot of great information planned for you that I'm going to get to in just a minute, but I wanted to give everybody a second to hop on the call that was planning on being live. If you're just joining, feel free to say hello to me in the question section. Even if you're not joining live, I would love to see you say hello. I do look at the comments afterwards all the time. So I'm excited that you're here. Hi, Lindsay. Yay. There is a little delay. So if you leave a comment and I don't see it right away, that's just because there's a little bit of delay. Hi, Jean. Welcome. Let me share with you before we start tonight's topic what I've done last week, the topics I covered last week. So here is the first one. Last Tuesday, I talked about what best practice really means. Hi, Barbara and Trisha and Kristen. Nice to see you. So if you missed that Facebook Live on what best practice really means, you can check that out and grab all the free resources for that. That was last Tuesday. You can see it on my Facebook feed if you just scroll down, or you can scroll to the left. You can see along the left side, there's an option to just watch videos. You can just click on the video and find that one. And then last Thursday, I did one that got really popular. It was guided reading versus strategy groups. So I talked about the difference between guided reading and strategy groups, and I offered a bunch of free resources from that as well. Shannon, no way you're in Fairhope. I just saw your post. Shannon, we have to get together. Let's have coffee. I live in Spanish Fort. Awesome. I go to Fairhope all the time. I love Page and Palette. Totally random. Sorry, everybody else. But that was last Thursday. Okay, so then tonight's topic is a really good one too. Tonight's topic is about tips for leveling your readers and your text. So if you've ever struggled with getting enough resources in your classroom that are leveled for you to use in guided reading, or maybe even in a strategy group, but mostly guided reading, and you want to find a way to level the books that you currently have in your classroom, this is the Facebook Live you want to watch. I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. I'm really excited about it and give you all of these free pages of resources. So with that being said, without further delay, I am going to just get started with tonight's information. And like every Facebook Live, you get all of this for free. There's no strings attached. You just get to hang out with me, learn a little bit of PD, and get all these pages of resources. So keep commenting as I'm talking because I might not see it right away, but I'm definitely going to go back and look at your comments when I get done with my Facebook Live. So let's start with talking about leveling our readers. I'm going to break tonight apart into two parts. First of all, we're going to talk about leveling readers, the students, and then we're going to talk about leveling the actual textbooks that you have on hand. And I'm going to give you some really practical ideas on how you can do that right now, right when we get off the Facebook Live. First of all, talking about leveling our students, I want to start by just saying this is something that I believe very strongly in, is that students are not a level. I'll say it again, students are not a level. Books are leveled. Books and passages and texts, they're leveled, but our students are not to be identified as a level. The students are actually readers and thinkers who require direct instruction and time for practice developing their reading skills in a safe, productive, intentional, systematic approach. So I don't look at it as a level. I look at a textbook as a level or a passage as a level, but I do not look at my students as a level. That's just a kind of mind shift you might have, or maybe something you never really thought of before, but that's something really important to me. And then my next question that I have on this slide is, how can I find an appropriate level of text that will best support each of my readers? So that's really the good question to ask. Not what level is my student at, but how can I find appropriate leveled text to meet my students and their reading needs and abilities? So first of all, I want to find out what my students are doing as readers, what kinds of strategies that they're using, and even more importantly, what kind of strategies that they're not using as readers, because that tells me where I need to take my instruction, right? If they're showing me that they can do things independently as a reader, then I don't need to really do a lot of instruction with that. They already have that mastered. But I'm looking for the things that they can't do as readers. What are they missing? And that's where I want to direct my instruction. So there's a couple different things that you can do to find out where your students are at as readers. And you can administer three types of different assessments is what I see. Number one, and a really popular one you probably know about, is a benchmark assessment. So you can measure in a benchmark assessment, you're going to be very formal, and you're going to measure the student's oral reading fluency, the student's comprehension, and their vocabulary, most likely. If you wanted to do a benchmark assessment, they're usually done at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and at the end of the year. I do offer benchmark assessments as resources in my store as a curriculum. You can check out jenbengelbenchmarks.com if you're interested in that. But that's the first way that I assess my students, is I get a really formal benchmark assessment. If I get a new student in the middle of the year or the second month in the year, I'll administer the benchmark just to that student. But most of the time I'll do it at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year for my whole class on a one-to-one basis. Another thing you can do that you may not have thought of a lot about, and I'm going to give you a resource for tonight, is called a baseline assessment. And I don't know if anyone else uses baseline assessment as a term. Hey, sis. I don't know if anyone else uses that as a term, but I kind of came up with it today. Maybe it's already used. I'm not sure. But a baseline assessment to me is a quick, short text that you can use with your whole class, the same text, something that is a leveled text that is for the average reader in your grade. So if you teach third grade, it would be a text that's leveled appropriately for the average third grader. That's what you call your baseline. So what I would do is I would have each student in my room read that same short passage or portion of a text for just a minute. I would time them for a minute. I'd have them read the same thing. And then I would ask them after that minute to tell me what they remember or what they're thinking about. And I can quickly assess then whether they're falling about on my baseline, or they're below my baseline, or they're above my baseline. And I'm going to talk about a baseline assessment in just a minute, a little bit more. But the third way that you can assess your students to find out where they're at as readers and grab leveled text to meet them at their instructional needs is you can offer progress monitoring through running records. A lot of teachers progress monitor their students biweekly if there's a need for them to be collecting that data. If it's a really intense intervention or type of student that needs lots of support, maybe they're a couple years below grade level or more, you might be doing progress monitoring, running records on a weekly basis. So it depends on the student and their needs, how often you would progress monitor. But progress monitoring is a really great way to gather data and to measure progress, not over a long term, like a benchmark assessment, but over a short term, like week to week or every other week type basis. And if you love data like me, you can track the data on line plots and bar graphs with those progress monitoring. So those are the three different ways that you can assess your students to find out where they're at. Let's take a closer look now. Let me see. I got to close this one down because I'm all over the map. I forgot I have this new technology here. Where did I go? Oh, there I am. Let me take this back down. So we just have this up. If you don't know the baseline for your grade level, this is a really helpful chart. And I have this as a free resource in my free informational resource for the intervention program that I have. You can get this chart. So this chart actually shows you for the average first grader, second grader, all the way up through high school, what your baseline should be. So if it's something that you're looking at to decide, I want to do a baseline assessment with my whole class, something quick that can give me a quick overview and then do my more formal benchmark assessment, you can use this as a guide for your baseline. That can be really helpful. Okay, so let me share with you the baseline format that I created. This is really cool. I made this for you guys. It's free. I'm going to give you a link to this in just a minute. But this is the baseline assessment format that I created for you. Let me flip my notes over here. And then, okay, so on this one, basically, so for a reading overview of your class, you can do this if you have, you're going to take 2 to 3 minutes per student. So if you have 30 students, you might take an hour tops to do a baseline assessment with your whole class. What you're going to do is you can have the students reading independently, or you can break it up over a couple of days too. And you're going to visit each student with the same passage that you choose that's at the baseline level for your grade. And you're going to do a quick outline of that student's reading ability. So you'll choose the passage that matches your grade level requirement and ask each student to read the passage for 1 minute aloud to you. And then you can follow this guide. So you can write the student's name, write the date, the text you're using, what level it is or what range it is. And then I even gave you a little bit of scripted language for you to use before reading. You can say to the student, I would like you to read some of the text out loud to me. I'm going to stop you after a minute and then ask you to share some of your thinking about what you read with me. Are you ready to start reading? And you can even tell them, you might not get through the whole thing, and that's okay. We're just going to read for 1 minute. And then I stop them. Lori, that's a great question about fiction or nonfiction. You can do one of each. You could actually do one of each to get an idea of how they do with fiction and how they do with nonfiction. That would be something I would recommend, actually. So during reading, as they're reading, you're going to judge, look on my baseline assessment here, you're going to judge each reading skill on a scale of 1 to 4 by circling a number under each skill. So 1 is going to be minimal, 2 will be basic, 3 will be proficient, and 4 will be advanced. So if they're phrasing appropriately, if they have appropriate phrasing, they're stopping at certain places that make sense, then they're going to get a really good 4 score there. If they're pausing at places that don't make sense for meaning, like they're chunking words together, you can tell they're not reading for meaning there, you would score them lower. If they're rereading for meaning, you would give them a good score there. You're going to judge their rate and their tone. So how fast they're reading versus how slow they're reading, the tone that they're using, when are they using inflection, when are they pausing at certain words, when are they actually getting their voice going up or going down. You're going to take a note of their reading errors. And the last thing you're going to take note of is if they appeared confident or not in what they were reading. If they're reading something that's a baseline assessment and they're a below level reader, they're probably not going to be that confident. And that's just something to note of. And that's why we only do this for a minute, because the student, if they're really struggling, you're going to know right away, and it's only 1 minute. And so then you can add up their points and give them a score for their oral reading fluency. And then after reading, I give you 3 questions to ask after reading. You're going to ask, tell me what you remember about the text, and give them some time to answer. If it's a little bit of awkward silence, that's okay. Give them a little bit of time to answer. And then ask them, what are some things that you're thinking? And you can always use this 3-word phrase to get them to think a little bit deeper than the surface of what's going on. You can say, tell me more, and then just wait. Say, tell me more. Tell me more about what you're thinking. And let them think a little bit more and dive a little bit deeper. And the last question is, what are you still wondering? And tell me more. You can see how these questions can work with any text that you're working with the students on. And you can score their answers 1, 2, 3, and 3 on a 1 to 4 scale. This is subjective, but you're going to know, you're the teacher, you're the expert in the room. Add up their points, and then you're going to add up the points from during reading and after reading to get a total value. And then that's going to tell you if the reader is minimal, basic, proficient, or advanced. Now, remember, this is a snapshot. This is going to take you less than 4 minutes, maybe 5 per student, tops. This is meant to be a snapshot. It is not meant to replace a formal benchmark assessment at all. It is not meant to replace running records or progress monitoring that you will do throughout the year. It's basically to give you a snapshot and to give you a range of where your readers are. So this is something that can be done very quickly over the course of a couple of days of independent reading time. You can get this done for your entire class. And what also is really powerful about this is if you use the same passage, one fiction, one nonfiction, maybe just one fiction or just one nonfiction, if you use that same passage with your entire class, you're going to start to see patterns. Who's able to read it really fluently, who's not. You're going to start to be able to kind of compare your baseline across the board. And it's going to give you really good information about what kinds of groups will work better together than others based on their needs as readers. So this resource you're getting for free in just a minute, I'll be giving to you this baseline assessment that you can use over and over with whatever level you're at. And let me scroll that down. There it goes. And then my next slide is a really good one too. This one is all about what to do if you try out your levels. Say you get together in a guided reading group and you're like not really sure exactly where your kids are at, but you're just going to try it out, which I think is awesome. What you need to do then is take a look at this chart. So if you try it out, these are some things to notice your students' behavior. How are they responding to the text that you're using with them in guided reading? And if they're responding to the certain ways on the left here, the text is probably too challenging. Certain things on the right means the text is probably right for their instruction. If the text is too challenging in a group, these are some of the things you're going to notice your students having problems with. The students are going to be off task and they might show inappropriate behaviors. They also might appear nervous if the text is too difficult for them. They could appear nervous in your group, and that's a sign that you've chosen a text that's just a little too difficult. That doesn't mean the end of the world. It's okay. You can adjust the next time you meet and know that you're going to offer them more support during that lesson in that group. Also, that there might be a lot of pausing during some fluently reading. Some oral reading might have a lot of pauses, places that don't make sense when you're listening into them. There's going to be a lot of rereading. The teacher's going to have to help a lot with the words. The lesson could take longer than what you planned. If it's a text that's too difficult for your group, the lesson could take longer than what you planned. And the teacher, you might have to help a lot more often than what you were expecting when you're listening into your students read. And you might not have time to go do a conference with other kids or to do a running record. And the last thing that's a really telltale sign that the book was too hard or the text was too difficult is that at the end of the lesson, you're exhausted. I don't know if you've ever been in a guided reading lesson where at the end you're just like, I'm exhausted. That was so much work. I know I have. If you've ever been in a group like that where you feel that way at the end, the text was probably too difficult. But on the other side, you're going to know the text is right if all the students are really engaged and they're focused on the text. They are really excited about what they're reading. And most of the problem solving that they're doing as readers is independent. They're doing it on their own. There may be some rereading and a little bit of awkward phrasing, but not a lot. And the lesson will take the appropriate amount of time. And you'll be there as a guide that gives a lot of support with the text that you won't need to give a lot of support with the text. And you'll have time to do a reading conference or a running record. And at the end of the lesson, too, you'll feel like, wow, that was really good. You'll be initiating a lot of conversations, but you'll see the kids taking the lead during the comprehension portion there as well. So those are a lot of big differences, is if the text you've chosen is too difficult or just right, you'll know using this chart. And again, I'm going to be giving you this in a second. Okay, let me scroll that down. And then I'll pull up my next slide. I have 2 left for tonight. This one is about how you can find the level of a text. I've got some really great stuff for you right now. Okay, you ready for this? So how can you find the level of a text? You may have a lot of reading materials in your classroom, but you don't know what the levels of those texts are. So you can't really match those levels with what your readers are needing. And this makes it really hard to match them up. So I have a guide for you to help you find the levels of text. What I always recommend is using 3 data points. So because when you use 3 data points, then you can be absolutely sure that what you're doing is a great level for that book. So here's 5 different ways, even more than that you can level a text. Number 1 is you can compare the text to other texts that you know are at a certain level. So if I have the book Dear Mrs. LaRue here, and I have the book Ira Sleeps Over, these are a couple of my favorites. There we go. Can sort of see them. This is weird. Okay, there we go. You can see them there. If I have these 2 books and I know Dear Mrs. LaRue is a level M book, I can take a look at the book. I know it's a level M. It's already been identified. I can take a look at the pages. I can take a look at the number of words that are on a page, the number of sentences that are on a page, the size of the font, the descriptions and the illustrations, the way the language is set up, how many words on that page have 4 or 5 syllables in them or more. And I can start comparing the 2 texts and see how similar they appear. That's one strategy I can do. That's pretty subjective, but the more you do that, the better you get at it. And the other thing you can do is you can consult the Continuum of Literacy Learning by Irene Fountas and Gay-Sue Pinnell. If any of you know me, you know I was trained with Irene Fountas in Boston, and you know I'm a big Fountas and Pinnell supporter. And what you can do is use that, which I call my literary Bible. You can use the Continuum. In the Continuum, if you have the A to Z Continuum grades 1 through 8 or K through 8, they have a guided reading section for each level that breaks down the 12 strategic actions for a reading. And it breaks down what a level A reader should be doing, what a level B reader should be doing, a C, and all the way up to Z. So if you're stuck at text, you can take a look at that, whatever level you're looking at, and see, yeah, this textbook or this text that I'm looking at matches a lot of the things that a level M book should be matching. So look at the continuum of literacy learning if you have it. Another thing you can do is you can use the Fry readability formula. Does anyone know that? Hi, Marsha, I see you. Hi, Tammy, Joanne, and Vicki. If you know the Fry readability formula, you know it's a little complicated, but it's really actually kind of impressive. A man named, I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Fry. In 1969, I believe, came up with this readability formula. And you know it's good if it was made in 1969 and it's still being used today. You know it's kind of stood the test of educational time a little bit there. But the Fry readability scale is really powerful, and I'm going to talk about it really quickly in a second. The other thing you can do is look at helpful websites and apps. The Scholastic Book Wizard is a great source for you to be able to just go to and type in the title. If you have Ira Sleeps Over and you don't know what the actual title, the level it is, you can type the title into the Scholastic Book Wizard and most likely get a level from it. You can also use Reading A to Z. Reading A to Z has the same type of thing. So if you don't see the book on Scholastic Book Wizard, you can check Reading A to Z. And you can also use one of my new favorite apps, which is the Literacy Leveler. Does anyone use the Literacy Leveler? Let me show you this. I was mind blown when I started using it. It's so cool because I have it on my phone right here. And what you do is you basically, oh, you can see me, hi, because it's looking to scan a book. So you can scan the back of a book, the code on the back of the book, you scan it, and it tells you what the book's level is for Lexile, DRA, and guided reading. If it's in the system, some of the books just have Lexile, which is okay because you can use a conversion chart to convert it to a level if you need a different system, but you can scan it. And then after you have the book in the system, then what you can do is you can go to My Library and all of your books that are an M will pop up in the level M section. I'm trying to do this, but there we go. In the level M section, all of your books that you have that are an N or an L will pop up and you can see all of them right there. How awesome is that? This is not a free app, but it's $4.99. Less than a Starbucks Frappuccino. So it's totally worth it. I mean, I have no ties to this company. I don't care if you get it or not, but I think it's amazing. So I can scan all the books I want and I can find the levels and then I can say, oh, I have that book. I'm going to add it to my library. And then when I want to get together with a group and I want to work with a level M text, I can pull up all the books that I have in my classroom that I've scanned that are level M's and I can go pull them and I know I have them. How cool is that? So that's called Literacy Leveler. Let me give you what it looks like. It's this bottom one right there. Literacy Leveler is what it looks like. And it's $4.99, but it's totally worth it. So I have all these books leveled in there then. So it's super awesome. And then I can compare that to my Fry readability. I can compare it to the Scholastic Book Wizard. So there's no reason why I can't go and just scan all the books in my classroom library and find a lot of different levels. Now they don't have a level for every single book, but I found a ton of them just using that app. So that's really cool. So another thing that you can do to find out if a text is the right level or not is just try it out with your students and use that behavior chart I just shared with you to see if it's appropriate or not for them. So this behavior chart that I just shared with you, you can use that to decide, hey, you know what, this is a good fit for them or not. And it's okay if it's not a good fit right away. You're going to know that and you'll give them extra support there then. Okay, my last slide is just showing you, this is a little bit complex, but just showing you the Fry readability scale, and then I'm going to give you this handout. You'll get a link in just a second and it'll come up in the comment section. So this is the Fry readability scale. Has anyone used Fry readability at all? It's a little complicated, but it actually really does work. What you can do is you can take a book. I've got my Ira here, and open it up to any page. And what you're going to do is you're going to count. I recommend opening it up to the middle of the book because then you're in the meat and potatoes of the book. So I randomly choose a section and I count out 100 words. So you're going to start, you're just going to count till you get to 100 words. And then what you're going to do, you're going to have your 100 words. You're going to count the number of sentences that are within that 100 words. And you're going to round the last sentence to the nearest tenth. So if you feel like it just started, it'll be like 5 sentences and 1/10, so 5.1. Or it's towards the end of the sentence, maybe it's 5.9. So you're going to count how many sentences are in those 100 words. And then using this chart I have for you, you're going to write down the number of sentences, so 5.2, and then you're going to do something a little bit more complicated. You're going to count how many syllables are in those 100 words. I'm always like, when I'm doing it, nobody talk. I have to figure this out. And I'll count the number of syllables that are in those 100 words. So then you use the scale that's on blue here. So you match up the number of sentences in those 100 words with the number of syllables, and where those two lines meet are going to tell you what grade level it's appropriate for or not. And it's not only just what grade level, but it tells you, like, is it closer to the beginning of 3rd grade or is it closer to the end of 3rd grade, which is really cool too. So you're going to get an ability level. So if you use my app that I just shared with you and you use the Fry Readability Scale, you're going to be able to very closely level your books that you don't have levels for. And then just try it out with your kids and see how they do. That's what I recommend you doing when you're looking for leveled books. Okay, so I think that's all the stuff I have for you tonight. Let me get you the link. But before I go, I want to tell you I'm doing a webinar really in like 30 minutes. If you're coming to my intervention webinar, I'd love to hear you say you're coming, but it's starting in a half an hour. I'm going to talk about how you can teach with the reading intervention program. I'm going to give you 12 different ways that you can use the reading intervention program. And I'm also going to be sharing with you tonight all of my notes. If you come to the webinar, you'll get all of my notes and you're going to get 29 pages of exclusive bonuses. So if you haven't signed up for the webinar yet, it's happening in a half an hour at 7:30 p.m. Yay, Charity's coming. And Kristen, awesome. It's happening at 7:30 p.m. tonight. Hi, Jessica, yay. And so if you still have time to sign up, you can go to jenbanglewebinars.com and click the link for tonight to sign up. You'll get an email. Check your junk folder. Especially if you use a school email, sometimes they don't send them to the school emails because they get blocked. But check your junk folder if you don't see it in your main feed. You'll get a link, and yeah, that's all you need to click to join the webinar tonight. Super easy. Is this the same as your life webinars? So my lifetime webinars have 10 webinars in them. So if you have lifetime access to all my webinars, that means you can watch them over and over again. And so this is in the lifetime webinar course. Yeah. Yay, Debbie, come. Yay, Lori, you guys got to come. It's so good. So you're getting all this stuff tonight too. I'm going to support your intervention and instruction and learning how not only you can help your readers who are struggling, but your ones who are on grade level and your ones who are advanced and need support as well to be challenged as advanced readers should be challenged. So that's all going to be happening tonight. I hope you can join me. If you're not coming, you can still come. It's happening soon. All right, let me get the link in here to your freebie for tonight. And again, if you wanted to watch other Facebook Lives, you can even watch ones from last summer. That's what's so cool about Facebook Live. And you can download all of the freebies too. All right, so this is coming in. There's my comment. Oh, and what's really cool, look at Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Okay, you convinced me, she said. I can show your comment on here. So here is, you can see the link to get your freebies from tonight. There you go. And Virginia, thank you. She said, thanks. This helps all of us. Super cool. Good question. Stephanie has a great question. Hi, Stephanie. She said, are your webinars accessible by smartphone or only by computer? You can use your smartphone to watch a webinar. I always try and recommend that you watch it on your laptop or your iPad because it's easier to grab links when they pop up, but you can still watch it on your phone as well. A lot of people watch it on their phone. You're welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoyed tonight's Facebook Live. Next week, or next Thursday, not next Thursday, this Thursday, which would be, what day is it? I have no idea. in 2 days, we are going to be talking about spelling. And if you're tired of teaching spelling in the traditional old school style, I'm going to share with you some ways that you can teach spelling in a differentiated way so that all of your spellers are being challenged, but not too challenged and feeling frustrated. Like, you have those kids with spelling on Monday, they get their list of words and they're never going to pass the test on Friday. Then you have those kids who they get their list of words and they already could get 100 without even doing anything all week. I'm going to share with you how you can avoid that trap with spelling when we get together on Thursday. So that'll be happening in a few days. Yay, Debbie, I'll see you in 30 minutes too. Hi, Valerie, you'll be there. Yay, yay, yay. So tonight's webinar is kind of a long one. Shauna asked, how long do they last? I always do a live Q&A at the end. Tonight's webinar is a little bit long, so it'll be about 60 minutes of content, and then we'll do a Q&A. So a little bit longer. They're normally about 45 minutes of content, but tonight's, because I have so much information to share with you, will be about 60 minutes. How often do you do baseline assessments? Good question, Kristen. This is going to be the last question I take because I have to go get ready for the webinar. Kristen, I do a baseline assessment if I get a new student in. If I get a whole new class of kids at the beginning of the year and I have no records from them from the year before, from their cumulative folders, I'm just not getting them, and I really want to just get them going on reading at their instructional levels, I'll do a baseline assessment with them at the beginning of the year. I'll just do it with my whole class, just to clear across the board. And then I'll still do my benchmark assessment because my baseline is only going to take me like maybe a day to do my whole class, maybe 2, depending on how long I have them sitting or breaking things apart. Usually I have them reading independently, or I have them working on some sort of little thing that I give them for back to school or beginning of the year type activity while I go and I listen to the kids read one at a time. So I usually can get it done in a day. And then I usually don't need to do that anymore. Then I'll have my baseline, which tells me then where I should start my benchmark assessment at. And I always start with my lowest readers first because I never want them to feel really frustrated in the classroom. And if I'm working at a level that's way too high for them, they're going to start feeling bad right off the bat. So I usually try and do my baseline and then benchmark them right away and get them placed at their instructional levels so that they can be getting their support that builds their confidence as readers and doesn't make them feel bad. And I know that I'm working with them right away then at their instructional level, if that makes sense. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight's Facebook Live. I will see you again on Thursday if I don't see you in a little bit in the webinar. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. And for all of you who are watching this later, keep commenting, keep asking questions, saying hello to me. I'd love to talk with you a little bit in the comment section there too as well. Take care, everybody, and have a great night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.